Welcome back to the Bucharest Major, where we will have our first semi-final. We're down to just 4 teams, and next up, it's the Battle of China. VG.J Thunder have made their way through as the dark horses we said they were on day one and have guaranteed themselves some DPC points, but they're not going to be settling for that, that's for sure. They go head-to-head with an old nemesis. It is, of course, Newbee. We're on our panel right now. We have an expert on China Dota alongside Capitalist, and we welcome Mr. Jack, or KBBQ. Master of everything. Podcaster, writer, analyst, commentator, host, interviewer, interpreter, translator. Have I missed anything?
Meme deliverer.
Meme deliverer! That was what we were going to talk about, because in line with the perfume, we thought we'd start this segment by catching up on Chinese memes, because I've missed them, frankly. I don't think we have enough of them in our lives, Jack. So please, talk to me about leather shoes.
There's just too many of them, but leather shoes is what Yang has come to be known by. Apparently he showed up for his first team interview in leather shoes, and so people found that to be a little bit strange. So he's carried that nickname with him ever since. But the nickname that most goes with Yang has been roughly translated, it's class or classy Yang, and it's a bit like many of these nicknames in the Chinese scene. It's a bit poking fun at him. He's known for, frankly, being quite rude in pubs, cursing excessively, and so they gave him the classy label. And sometimes he and RTK, they'll stream, they'll get in the same game, they'll be yelling at each other, threatening each other a little bit. RTK's like, "Don't make me come downstairs, live in the same house." But classy Yang is something that's stuck with him since then.
Brilliant.
Sounds like my kind of pub player.
Yeah, even in Chinese pubs, the rage flows across all languages and boundaries.
Oh, I know. I was actually on the receiving end recently.
You were, yeah.
Paparazzi and SCC flamed me. How often do they flame?
Well, that should be an honor, getting flamed by paparazzi. Please, tell me more. Tell me more.
I don't know if I want to say more. It was pretty bad. Listen, I was playing. I have a laptop. And I was playing at the hotel during the group stage. I was playing on the hotel internet. My laptop overheats, so there were certain abilities that may or may not be cast in a team fight. It's not my fault though. And I was with GH, and Paparazzi and SCC would give me the ping. Paparazzi. He pinged me. Ping. And then he did the next level where he all-clicked my Walrus Punch because I was playing Tusk, which I did not use in that team fight because I lagged, and clicked that a couple times so it pops up, Ally, Walrus Punch. Yeah, I knew what he meant. I'm sorry.
That sounds like a unique honor. I'm sure this story will make its way onto the Chinese forums real soon.
Yeah, you'll be a Chinese meme all of yourself. Let's get into this particular game. You've highlighted the mid players in this particular matchup as 2 players that you would like to talk about, Jack. So talk us through the 2 mid players.
So we have SCCC, who we talked about yesterday, has really had to change his role quite a bit. Again, like early on with this team, he really stood out on these kind of cleanup crew type of heroes. Again, like being like a harvester. He'd come in and end fights. These Queen of Pains, these Templar Assassins. But that's really had to change a bit, both probably in terms of how they want to approach the game and because of his own performance to some extent as well. So they've moved him a little bit to more of these kind of tempo mids. And also the mid lane itself has changed quite a bit. You go from a few months ago, a mid that has so many resources in it, the extra creep, all the experience, to a mid that is now very difficult to gank and maybe is less important compared to before. And now he's got a bit of a different role within the team as well. Like he's like leading the charges now.
Do you think that the Freeze, like he's been playing kind of a similar style in that they've been picking a lot of Death Prophet, he's been playing a lot of Gyrocopter in that regard. Do you think he is that his natural play style, is the more aggressive mids?
It's almost like they've switched places, actually, because Freeze, if you recall, used to play a lot of Storm Spirit, more of the like spellcaster types to try and make space, and that's actually changed a little bit. He has more of like the bigger carry out of mid role, which SCCC used to have. So that's kind of the role that he stepped into. These Gyrocopters, these Medusas, the late game turret, so to speak, if you compare their team to being a tank, that's what Freeze has stepped into recently for VG.J.
Yeah, it's fascinating how it's all going to pan out between those two, and also between the 2 teams as well. Talking of which, why don't we introduce you to them, because they are ready backstage to bring out for the first semi-final of the day.
A relentless adversary who came incredibly close at TI7 has remained the deadliest team in China throughout the pro circuit. Searching for their first title outside of Asia, this team is fiercely ambitious and definitely means business. Welcome on stage, Newbee. When you fall down on your knees, beg for mercy, Mr. Please. The time has come to make things right. There ain't no chance for the Midas touch of their new TI veteran should be the final piece of the puzzle. A team who have been on the edge of greatness since the start of the pro circuit now has everything they need to truly shine on the major stage.
Those souls were not yours to claim, Shadow Fiend.
Welcome on stage, VG.J Thunder.
Here we go then. Newbee versus VG.J Thunder, an all-China final, a semi-final. Both of them looking for a grand final. Newbee for the second time in 2018, and VG.J Thunder already have their best ever finish, regardless of what happens this afternoon inside the DPC. But they won't be settling for fourth or third. They'll want to get through to the grand final, where there is an absolute hatful of points for them as far as the DPC is concerned. Our draft will be next up, but let's preview the match itself and see where we're going with these two teams. We've got an expert from China on the desk alongside Cap in the form of Mr. KBBQ. It's so good to have you here when we get these kind of matches, by the way.
Thank you.
Because Cap knows nothing about China.
Oh, I wouldn't say he's been there a couple times.
You know, you once told me, I asked you advice on hosting, and you once told me your job is to be able to lift everyone out.
No, everyone
all
except
your analysts.
you. Except you.
And all you do is bring me down, Paul. That's all you do.
Let's get into this game then. So, who starts as favorite, Cap?
I would say Newbee here, pretty
Even
heavily.
though VG.J have had the better performances?
I mean, better performances is all kind of a toss-up, right? You've had best of ones. Sure, you 3-0'd, but they're best of ones. And then you had a best of 3 against TNC. I think Newbee actually had the stronger opponent. I have a lot of respect for TNC, and I think TNC's performance compared to Secret's performance, I actually preferred TNC in that regard. But overall, you have to give like a little bit of credibility to Secret as a team. So I think Newbee, both the combination of their route through this tournament as well as just overall, right? Newbee beating Chinese teams is a common storyline.
All right, let me put this to you. They played Vega, OG, and Complexity in the group stages. Those are the 3 wins they had.
Okay.
Is that not a weaker set of teams?
I mean, I would say still the best of 3 against Secret, and I don't think there's anything wrong with
OG.
OG.
You put more weight on the quarterfinals.
OG didn't make top 8, but like, come on.
Still a great team.
Yeah, it's still a great team. They pushed a best of 1 Liquid game to the bitter end. Like,
they did.
I don't think you can really ask for a tougher matchup. Like,
okay. I thought it was interesting, Jack, that whilst we were watching the intros, ROTK came up here to join us for some reason. I don't know quite why he came up here to join us, but it was nice of him to come and join us for a little bit. He's got a job on his hands, surely, to try and knock Newbee out of the way to get this to his grand final. And I say him because a lot of what this team does is down to him, isn't it? Yeah,
it's quite a big job, probably more than any other coach out there, I would say. I mean, he's entirely responsible for the drafts of this team, has been since the start. Basically, to know ROTK, as I said yesterday, is to know this team. The drafting philosophy is going to be his. He does the picks for these games. He tells the players what they need to focus on. He is so important to this team, the driving force behind it. And he's a big reason why some of the guys on this team, some of the support players, maybe aren't usually as vocal themselves, don't talk as much, is because he has set the strategy in place for them. So yeah, he's definitely huge to this team. Obviously, they said yesterday in the interview, there's kind of the joke where Fade said, "I hope Newbee goes home." It is because Newbee are such a fearsome team against other domestic Chinese opponents. I believe they've beaten VG.J in every single series this year, except the last game they played where Newbee were playing with the stand-in. So they are a fearsome team for a reason. I think they have relatively similar playstyles, but Newbee is very steady, and they've shown that once they get to know these teams very well, they're a very difficult opponent to knock off.
I want to continue a little bit on the ROTK link with the team. Try and explain to us in the West, it would be very unusual, for instance, that anyone had kind of got the gravitas that he has with the community and with the players in China, where they could step into that kind of right. For instance, I don't know if you could see Bulba going to EG and just saying, "Right, guys, you're going to pick these heroes, and this is how you're going to play."
And yell at the players.
And yell at the players, and they just get on with it. I can't see that happening. All due respect to Bulba, it's a different relationship in the West. Explain why he is held in such reverence in China.
I would say that the Chinese scene is a bit more status conscious. It's just a cultural thing as well, and like his place in the scene cannot be disputed. So he's a person who has tremendous personal charisma himself. His force of personality you see through the interviews that we've gotten exposed to. Yep. He spent some time with our team at Macau, and he comes in and like the whole atmosphere changes. He explains things in a very succinct and amusing, entertaining way, but it's very clear, and you see like the wisdom and the insight behind it. And so for someone who's achieved so much in the Chinese scene, who has that respect as an old head, there's very few people on the team who can kind of match up to that. And so you have someone like Siler, people like DDC who are veterans who respect that as well, even if they sometimes may not respect their teammates as much. And so ROTK is just a very important voice. Again, force of personality, his own charisma, and of course his own experience and results, which are indisputable.
At the end of the day, though, Cat, players still got to deliver, and they so far have delivered here.
They have. I'm actually pretty interested in the fact that I feel like there is a playstyle change from them coming out from their previous qualifier performances and then going into this tournament. And I think it is very similar to what we saw from Secret and their change of face, right? They tried to give us a different concept of drafting and a different kind of show from their players. And I think VG.J's Thunder is doing something similar. They're not drafting a whole lot of those really hard carry mids. They tried once in this tournament, and that was the Dusa mid that they went in that very first game against TNC.
Yeah.
That did not go very well. In fact, they tried to double down on the greed with running a Legion Commander in that game as well. Other than that, it's been a lot of Death Prophets, Vipers, Gyrocopters, like those kind of 15 to 25 minutes that have sort of been the mainstay of this tournament.
Do you think maybe game one again, they decide that they want to try and play a little bit different?
Against Newbee?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
It's a bit more risky, isn't it?
It is a bit more risky, especially since they watched that series where Newbee did take down the more aggressive lineups that Secret tried to run against Newbee. They took it down in just tremendous fashion. They absolutely owned both Game 1 and Game 2. So I would be open to that first game, VG.J Thunder trying something like that and trying a slower pace lineup like they've done in the past and give Freeze one of those harder carries.
I think there are two clear keys here for each team coming into the draft. I think if you're VG.J, you definitely want to deal with Kaka's pool. I think you absolutely cannot let Naga through. I'm not sure if Sand King is worth a ban, but you want to kind of limit Kaka's playmaking potential. He is the engine that runs his team for the most part. And if you're Newbee, I think you've got to consider maybe narrowing Yang's hero pool a little bit because the team has been so successful when Yang gets these team fight-centric frontliners. And so you might want to limit some of those options and make VG.J play a little bit different out of their offline position.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of Brew, Omni, Underlord from Yang, so I completely agree with Jack there. I think it's very easy to be able to herd this offlaner into one hero and then try and counterpick it accordingly.
So they'll probably get rid of the Lycan as well. Like Siler is just, I guess he's known as the Wolf King, more or less by now for various reasons. They probably don't want to leave that in there. Death Prophet, another hero that he has excelled on in terms of leading the charge for his team. So.
VG.J Thunder are beginning to focus. They've got that Naga Siren Sand King.
What do you know?
Bane ban.
I would expect a hero like Disruptor, if it's not outright banned, to be an early focus as well. I think Disruptor and Elder Titan are likely some of the earlier heroes off the board here.
Yeah, DDC's played it the most. Faith's also played it the most. Definitely one of those contending heroes, isn't it?
And it's a big threat to many of the teamfight offlaners that both sides like to be able to run, right? When we talk about Tidehunter, VG.J Thunder ran it recently, but it's a KP staple.
Yeah, if you expect the game to come down to team fights, then Elder Titan is a 4 that obviously gives you a lot of team fight. Counter initiation for these kind of hybrid carries that we've seen these two run the last 2 days, the Lunas and Gyros, and a way to save them as well. Good counter initiation and offensive potential too. So that's something that Thunder, if they end up not having a Tusk, which is like one of Fade's specialties, if they don't get an Earth Spear or something like that, they'll probably get a more team fight centric type of hero.
Expecting an Omni or a Tide in these first 2 picks, Cap, on both sides.
Yeah, I think Omni is much more likely, especially with his pairing with the Gyrocopter. I think Tidehunter you could usually save until 3-4 and take that chance.
So there's the first pick we expected. It is the most played hero by both of the 5s in these 2 teams.
And I think whenever you see a Disruptor picked up, it's a great teamfight hero, but you want to make sure that you are always the one holding the tempo of the game. Otherwise, you start being really susceptible to that glimpse. We talked about how it played out against the Death Prophet choice of Optic in our previous series with Virtus Pro. Terrorblade is still out there as well. It's one of those big cores that everyone's picking.
So many options. Do you just take the Gyro here? Do you take the Witch Doctor? It is going to be the Omni Knight. And do they take the Razor just to protect it? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. In which case, are they going to go?
They're going to go
Brew against the Omni.
Right.
So again, this is another one of Yang's heroes that he's had success with, and it's picked up as an instant counter often to the Omni Knight. It's pretty good against the Razor as well. You're not really going to be able to kill the Brewlings. They can kind of keep you out of the fight for long enough so that your Link doesn't really do anything. So pretty nice counter pick. I think the first phase is definitely well prepared by both teams.
Yeah,
they know
knew
what they're going to go for.
Yeah, I'm not totally set on the Razor pickup here from Newbee because there are many other teams. While the laning phase is difficult for the Omni Knight against the Razor, I'm not so sure that you really need to protect this pick. In fact, in many times the Omni actually works very well against the Razor later on into these team fights. So I am not too, I'm feeling a bit bearish on Razors right now. I feel like they are too many times. I mean, we specifically have that matchup against the Lifestealer, and he's supposed to be able to do quite well there. Ends up losing his laning phase every single time his Link. He may steal some damage. He ends up dying anyway. He isn't really able to turn those things around. So I kind of would have preferred the Gyrocopter here for Newbee if we're going to open with a 1-2 core combination. Other than that, VG.J Thunder feels a little bit more evened out with their Disruptor Brew.
Yeah, obviously they have the Sable and some good team fight, but for Newbee, and the reason these two heroes can be picked up so frequently early is the pressure that they apply in lanes. Obviously Razor is seen as a natural counter. You can put him against the Brewmaster. The Omni Knight just causes laning problems all over for the most part. But teams are getting wiser about playing against these heroes as well, and you're seeing a lot of different types of counters to the Omni too. We could see a Luna, as we've seen, paired with like 1 or 2 other laners, does very well against Omni and can zone him. We've seen Viper a few times as well. Just many different answers that teams have across the board.
And Thunder have continued on the focus of support bans.
Yeah,
Another
take that
one on
Earth Spirit.
Yeah.
The instant silence is really good against the Brewmaster from the Earth Spirit. And it's the same reason why Disruptor is such a great opening pick, because it counters, it's relatively okay versus Omni Knight, but it's much better versus the Tidehunters and the Brewmasters because the instant response it allows you in the AoE control. So there's not going to be too many 4 positions left in the pool by the time this is all said and done.
I think we could see potentially something like a Doom here as well. Also another option against the Omni Knight. I think unless they want to run this as a 4, they could potentially also pick up a Rubik on the side of Thunder. But there's the Lycan ban. Didn't come in the first phase, but Sylar is known, not for anything else, certainly for this hero.
VG.J Thunder, we talked about the Nightstalker in their opening matchup. I still think that's a possibility as a later 4 position pickup. If it's not paired with the Death Prophet, I think it still can be okay for VG.J Thunder. They seem pretty comfortable on it.
Yeah, it's a hero that this team really values, especially on Fade. Again, just kind of the vision, you have the silence for the Omni Knight as well. Just helps them take better engagements, which is usually very important to their early mid-game. When they want to get together with Sylar and start taking objectives, they need to be smart about where they go. Newbee is a team that usually makes use of smokes very well, very efficiently, and they have great team fight positioning. And so having a vision advantage can help negate that. The Terrorblade ban is interesting. They might be this is something that you see banned against a gyrocopter, just a strong hero in general. And so maybe VG.J have to think about taking that out as well.
Newbee's turn to pick.
I guess it could work for them as a mid hero, but I'm kind of feeling like it would actually work for VG.J Thunder.
Yeah, they have options here. I think Gyro or Luna are likely pickups for them.
10 seconds remaining.
You know, one hero that has actually fallen off pretty heavily here, the Tiny. VG.J Thunder tried to run the Sylar Tiny. I don't think it was his problem at all. I think it came down to the Dusa and the Legion Commander pick that were problems in their opening draft against TNC.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that Tiny went from pretty widely regarded as one of those like mainstay cores that is always a problem in those opening picks and has fallen off the wagon pretty heavily here.
Yeah, played 11 times here with an 18% win rate.
Oh.
I talked to them a little bit about that game, and I think for them, they felt that they rushed the Tiny pick, and then just the laning in general. It ended up being against the Bat Rider, and it really suffered. So they would have wanted to move the Legion Commander over there.
Yeah, we talked about the laning phase and what they wanted, and they did not do that whatsoever. So the Luna into the Razor here. So Razor can kind of latch onto a Luna and take away some of that damage. They have a Omni Knight with the Repel, as well as Razor can be an early BKB hero. But it has been really favored lately. We keep on seeing these Lunas versus Gyrocopters and how they are farming similarly. And Chen was still out in the pool.
This is interesting. I don't think Faith or Kaka have played this in a very long time. So this is definitely a bit of a wrinkle for them. As you mentioned, Luna, they'll probably want to put him in the Omni lane. I think with the Disruptor, it also frees up the possibility of sending their 4 down with the Brewmaster to pressure the safe lane, or to give some relief against whoever is with that Razor.
But they're already going to be feeling the pressure of this Chen, so this is definitely not the more Western approach to Chens, where they're running these with, I would say, these lane shovers who want to be able to dive towers. Omni Knight's going to be okay with it, but it's definitely a different kind of pressure, and I wonder how well it's going to be at threatening this Luna. It's definitely one of those carries that can be.
So they've played Luna twice in the last 15 months. And the last time was 4 months ago. Before that, it was January of 2017 when they played it in a Meepo lineup.
Dire team back.
Wild.
I don't remember that one.
That was against Wings at Genting.
Well, with the Viper now banned, I was thinking Viper or DK, another one of those kind of front-lining pushing heroes.
But yeah, last time they played it was 4 months ago. That was in Captain's Draft against LGDFY.
So there's the Bounty, seen as a good harasser of the Chen. You can really slow him down, even like block his camps and just not allow him to run over your lanes. But also, again, a vision hero, which Thunder prioritizes more than some other teams. You see them get Night Stalker for that reason as well. Take smarter fights. And then, of course, this hero is also very popular because it just provides move speed for your team. And when you have heroes that are already faster, or make them even faster, it's definitely a very nice advantage for getting numbers to team fights or getting out of bad engagements.
10 seconds remaining.
Actually, they could do DK on Newbee side as well. DK Razor Omni. It'd be one of those pretty heavy sustain lineups. You'd have an SF to go against.
Yeah, so there's something that'll help against Chen creeps. You have a lot of hybrid, again, magic damage as well for the Omni Knight. Definitely benefits from that move speed as well, even more with the Bounty Hunter. And a hero that will give them very strong presence in mid, no matter who this last pick is. You have kill potential and harassment potential. You can take that tower quickly, and he's a little bit less concerned about Chen than some other cores.
I wonder how comfortable they feel about the Razor versus SF mid matchup, and then they can pick a different side lane hero.
Yeah.
Something that matches.
I mean, both Mugi and SCCC do play the Razor, so they can move it.
I kind of feel like I like to be able to keep the Razor versus the Brew and get a different mid.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if they go back to something like a Queen of Pain and SCCC staple. There is a Disruptor, but beyond that, there isn't too much lockdown for that.
And it's a nice pure damage nuke to be able to bring both the Luna as well as the SF, BKB, agility cores that are kind of low on HP at times. Pure damage nuke can be quite good for you. You take a faster pace against this team who has a Bounty Hunter. They want to be able to get those kills, but between a Quap and a Razor, Newbee would definitely be taking the first step when it comes to controlling the tempo of the game.
Here we go then.
Oh, Templar Assassin. The TASF matchup that we've seen one time before in this tournament. I believe Optic picked it up for CCNC.
Yep. Can really punish this lane, reaching back into the SCCC old tool bag right there.
That's cool.
Okay. Interesting draft. Did that go the way you thought it would, Jack? Or was that a bit wilder?
I think they pretty much stayed in bounds for this first draft. I'm sure they prepared a lot of these answers.
I was going to say it's quite mental as well, wasn't it, through that? Cap, prediction time. Who are you going with?
I like the Templar Assassin pickup. It gives them a nice roche-taking hero, and I think that's pretty important because they're going to take the tempo of this game, I think, early. With the Chen pickup, with the Omni Knight Razor combination is difficult to deal with. I like it. I think VG.J Thunder may have a hard time keeping up.
Newbee for you.
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah, I think until proven otherwise, Newbee are still the kings of China. I think they're just a very stable team, and they'll execute a little bit better than VG.J. We saw some plays of impatience yesterday that might come back to hurt them if they do anything like that in this game. So until proven otherwise, I'm going to go with Newbee for game 1.
Okay. Newbee from both of our analysts. Of course, it's down to the players in game number 1 as we head into our first semi-final of the day. Both these teams searching for a place in the grand final and for a shot at being the first ever Chinese team to win a major. Long road still ahead of both, but it starts right now with game 1.
Oh, there we go. All right, it is a pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Newbee versus VG.J Thunder. I'm Zyori, he's Trent. How you feeling, big guy?
Feeling great now. Look at you. You're a production master. You just hit that button, good to go. Working out the kinks. It's early, it's fine.
That's me. Whatever hat's required.
I agree with the panel. I think they got the right call in terms of Newbee. It looks good, but it's definitely momentum-based. Got to get things going fast, and if they don't quite hit those timings, maybe VG.J can bounce back, but they are going to be more crisp than some of those games yesterday. They made a couple mistakes going high ground, and that kind of, flawless movement. You got to have that against Newbee.
Yeah, absolutely. So Luna is a hero that you and I have come to appreciate quite a bit. We got to see her in both games yesterday. She has looked pretty much unstoppable in the playoffs, which has been interesting because she was basically ignored in the group stage. We spent a lot of time talking backstage about how she feels like a poor man's gyrocopter, and maybe in this situation, a rich man's gyrocopter.
Yeah, well, Sylar, he lost out on his Lycan possibilities, so I guess we're going with the old Luna. And Fade going to be roaming around this map quite a bit here on the Bounty Hunter. He's going to be providing that vision for the Shadow Fiend to just keep up with people through the fog, chasing them through trees, the movement speed for the whole team to catch up, and then of course the big one will be scouting for glimpses to make easier plays here for DDC as he battles up, driving KP out of this one bounty room.
Yeah, it looks like KP is going to be pushed back, and it'll probably be one apiece. And yeah, it's an even split for the bounty rooms.
I like this play from Fade. This is one thing that they used to do with the Night Stalker quite a bit too when they would pick it, is just use it to manipulate lanes early on. It's hard to punish these kind of heroes. They're so tanky, obnoxious, and of course in this case you just have to bring detection too to do something. But they were prepared. I think Kaka's seen this move before because he bought Dust very early.
Yeah, this is the old double lane, right? You try to distract this so another creep spawn will eventually come, and then it pushes into the tower and makes the life of that Brewmaster maybe just a little bit easier, so Yang will find some of that early experience and maybe even a little bit of that early farm. It will be a 2-1-2 coming out of Newbee to get things started. Faith's going to be in the off lane beside KP, which is kind of interesting, and that'll put Kaka down in the safe lane alongside Mugi as they try to intercept Yang here, who's pulling this double wave.
Oh yeah, Yang actually in so much trouble. He's going to have to leave, but the telekinesis was used by Kaka as soon as he came in vision with that wave, so there'll just be some creeps battling it out in the middle of the jungle. Standard start to your Dota 2 game.
Yeah, and that's something you see every day. The rest of the Dire lane going to be shoving into the tower now. I'm not sure who this benefits at the moment. It was supposed to benefit Yang, but Mugi seems to be handling it just fine, finding all of those last hits.
In the end, as long as this just pushes out for Yang, which it almost certainly will, especially with the camps blocked up here, small camp gone, and Yang's even going to get a pull off too, so perfect creep manipulation here to start from VG.J Thunder.
Yeah, this is fabulous. Up top, they almost found that kill onto the Omni Knight, but he was able to make it back to the tower as Fade has rotated all the way up top. Of course, with the Bounty Hunter, you always have to be careful with that courier, especially before the 3-minute mark. Bounty Hunter, incredible at courier pickoffs. Maybe one of the best.
Yeah, definitely the very best, I would say. super frustrating in that mid game now, especially when we rely so much on like clarities and salves coming out even after like 25 minutes. It just you don't ever want to go home, and sometimes Fade's going to force you to.
Yeah, right now stalking out Faith, going to fight over this bounty rune, and Fade will be able to grab it. Not bad for the bounty hunter.
When I look at these two drafts, I think the two people I'm putting the most pressure on are going to be Faith on the Chen, so that he gets that quick momentum going that they kind of need with this draft, and then the Brewmaster to kind of hold back the momentum that Newbee are going to be going for. If he wins a couple of those first fights with the split, that might be enough to slow down this TA to the point where she's like fightable, essentially.
How do you feel about TA in general right now? She feels like a very niche pick in this current meta.
She's kind of...
Uh-oh, is Freeze in some trouble? That's a hasted up Kaka. They do have the telekinesis, and a first blood could fly early. It goes the way of SCCC on the Templar Assassin. Speak of the devil, Trent. There will be no Caster's Curse today.
Yeah, she's she reminds me a lot of Ursa, I guess. You just play a lot of the same ways, right? You want that first roast, you want to play around her, you want to enable her, get off some crazy start, but she's a lot more versatile than Ursa, right? She has this crazy new ability to just cut waves all across the map, so her mid-game is way more powerful than it used to be, using those traps with damage.
And you can't forget about the vision aspect of the traps as well. Not only controlling Roche with minus armor, but giving you that easy intel to scout out the respawns, maybe enemy rotations into the pit without having to put yourself in harm's way. But now this mid lane shifting in favor of the Radiant. TA definitely happy with that, and since Rubik was hasted up, doesn't have to waste much time. He just heads right back down to that bottom lane to babysit his Razor.
And what's really terrifying is the one thing about TA is you can catch up with Ancients. You know, you get a little behind, you just go over, you get some gold back to yourself, but he is definitely not behind. I mean, he is slaughtering here, 22 to 14.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow start for this bounty hunter. Always one of the issues with a bounty draft. When is he going to find level 6? Nice deny on that Dark Troll Summoner up there. Who's going to find the advantage? It looks like it's VG.J Thunder. KP very low and will fall as the bounty hunter has that last hit to finish him off. Nicely done.
Yeah, that means now both supports going to have their boots. So happy Disruptor, and relieves a bit of pressure on Fade in terms of being up here too.
So Chen grabs the bounty rune now. It seems like Chen has just become an off-lane hero at this point, Trent. It's not even a mystery of, is this a jungler? No, he's sort of just a straight laner. Faith is the 5, but he's been pretty committed to this top lane, and now they're actually going to rotate the Rubik as well.
It's wherever you got to go to get the kills.
And telekinesis onto Luna. KP goes charging in with the purification. They've got a lot of follow-up damage. That thunderclap really helps the damage, and then that 3-second slow to boot. No getting away for the Moon Rider. She takes a tumble. 2-1 as Newbee pull into the lead.
Complete annihilation there. Meanwhile, on the bottom lane, this is looking like what should have happened yesterday when KP was playing the Brewmaster versus the Razor.
Double damage on Fade. He's going to come in and initiate on Mugi. He has stolen a lot of damage from Yang, but will he be able to survive this? It's going to be a tough one. The unstable current does slow down the bounty hunter enough, and Razor actually makes it out despite a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but look at these last hits. Like yesterday, we saw the Razor and the Brewmaster going even when KP was on the Brewmaster, and that was definitely not supposed to happen.
No.
They got way too much out of that lane. This is more so what you're looking for is Mugi doing fairly well for himself, but probably still not as high as he'd like, but at least he is shutting down Yang, who, again, I think is the core hero.
A lane rotation from VG.J Thunder. Yang heads to the top lane. It's going to cost him his life straight away. The kinetic field from DDC won't be much help. Realizing that this Luna is getting pressured up top, they rotate Sylar to the bottom lane, but the top is turning into a bit of a disaster as Newbee are pushing in and cutting the wave. Mugi also making the rotation. I think they want to dive DDC here in the tree line if they can find him.
When Chen gets the wave like out from the tower like this, it's like a stranglehold. Like, how do you ever relieve this pressure? He's just going to grab another creep from a camp behind him. You try and rotate in, you're just going to die. I mean, he's even just using one for a catapult at the moment.
Yeah.
He has no concerns whatsoever. This tower goes down way too fast. There's no chance to respond down the bottom lane from Sylar.
I mean, it's a great way to shift the lane momentum. You often hear players say, oh, this is a double siege wave. We have to shove the tower. This is a great time to keep all these creeps alive. And nice early on, you've got a double siege wave. You're going to use the Satyr Tormentor to tank it up. The Tier 1 tower falls, and DDC will be forced to TP home. No stun to interrupt, so he will survive. But a nice early start for Newbee. This is pretty much the dream scenario for a Chen out of the gate. Already level 4 and knocking down towers.
Yeah, and this is, although you don't really see it, creating a lot of space mid too. Freeze has been forced in the jungle. He's getting lots of last hits there with the neutral camps, but TA still just mid. pressuring and not really receiving any bounty hunter hate.
Yeah, now Newbee kind of gets left behind. He does have some support, though, taking a lot of damage. On the run will fall to freeze as Kaka reinitiates. They might be able to get the counter kill on the Shadow Fiend. He's getting so low, and a few more auto attacks will find it. Now Kaka moving into the tree line, turns to drop the damage onto Fade, and he finds it first! And the Hadouken will bring down DDC. It's a messy fight, but an obvious advantage for Newbee.
Yeah, Kaka will take that death. He's been unbelievable throughout this tournament, but definitely Fate, the one who gets all the credit there. 574 gold for his hard work, so.
Yeah, usually a little early to be looking at this net worth chart, Trent, but it's 7 minutes. It's a 3K net worth lead for this Radiant squad, with the TA putting a lot of pressure on mid. This poor Brewmaster just can't find a home. He desperately wants that level 6 to get the Brew split. Maybe then they can find some of these fights, but until then, he's just looking for that experience.
Yeah, now KP's getting all that space down bottom too. He has Arcane Boots, and that net worth chart is just, it's all green. Like, there are so many Radiant heroes on there.
I mean, just look at the difference between the supports. I think that's the biggest disparity. Chen and Rubik farming alongside the cores right now, whereas the offlaner and all are both supports of VG.J Thunder kind of on food stamps at the moment. Now it's going to be Kaka that gets initiated on, but a turn telekinesis onto Sylar. It's a big commitment from Newbee. They kill Fade first, and the Luna able to survive thanks to the kinetic field from DDC, but it's another kill going the way of the Radiant.
With a lot of mid laners, you have this moment where you're like, okay, well, we can try and get back into this using the ultimate. You know, you get a Puck Dream Coil, you get a Queen of Pain with the Scream or something like that. But Shadow Fiend does not offer that. He's pretty much just wants to go jungle, wants to get his levels up. He doesn't have his Requiem for a long time, and that means they need to try and use this Eclipse. But you can see there, they can't find it. They have to try and use the split, but Yang, well, he's still not level 6.
Nope, trying to get that bounty rune, but KP grabs it from him. He'll turn 6 himself, and will continue to make this Brewmaster's life difficult. All the while in the mid lane, Newbee continuing the pressure. They've got a Hellbear Smasher as well as a Satyr Tormentor in the front line. That'll be another tier 1 tower down, and this dire map gets opened up a bit more as they rotate into the jungle. Up top, indeed, Mugi popped by the Eclipse. Sylar will finally find a kill of his own. Got to be happy with that. Some much-needed recovery for the Luna.
Yep, they needed something with that Eclipse. Nice little victory.
Little replay here up top. Oh, this was the fight before where Mugi survives maybe a bit longer than he should. He does go down first, but then the turn commences. Freeze will be the second to fall, and Faith the one in the back line that keeps this steady.
Yeah, Kaka maybe even considering going with the salve there for a chance to survive, but
back into the game, Yang very low, almost dies there, but does survive. So close to level 6.
He's baiting up here.
Freeze wrapping around the back line. KP looking for a TP home, but it won't happen. Small sign of life for VG.J Thunder, but Newbee, they are not missing a beat with this momentum. Look up top, this tier 2 starting to melt. There is a glyph available if VG.J Thunder want to go for a defense, but it doesn't look like they'll have the resources.
These kind of plays look so good, though. Like, you're using these spells that you have, you're getting levels on your Brewmaster, you're picking off some of these cores, and then suddenly there's a Chen. I mean, as you said, the Rubik and the Chen, they're right there. They are cores right now. Chen is the second highest net worth on the Radiant side.
Yep.
This is Fate's never going to let go of the power, man. What if it gets to his head?
Well, what's really scary is this TA is starting to snowball. 5,200 net worth at 10 minutes is nothing to scoff at. Going straight for the Desolator, already has one of the Mithril Hammers. The timing on this item is going to be fantastic, and it's going to make the pushing even more scary.
I think they need another tower. Why not?
Why not?
Why slow down?
Yang's going to head to the mid lane. He does have the Brew split available, but a little bit low on reinforcements. Fade's going to wrap around the backside, but without a glyph, this is going to be a difficult tower to defend.
Hey, at least they might get the courier. Nope, he's showing. He also only has level 1 on the invis, so that's a hard grab.
Still good control of the courier from Newbee. Going to keep it over the tree line, so it won't be a free pick for the bounty hunter by any stretch. They'll stay grouped up as a 5-man bundle, and the death ball continues here, Mr. Trempax.
Yeah. You know what feels awful when you're playing a bounty hunter? 5-man Dota. You know what? Eclipse isn't that great against 5-man Dota.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
Absolutely. VG.J Thunder lose another tier 2 tower.
They grab Fade in the back.
Yes, perhaps.
Easy.
They can get more. SCCC gets glimpsed back, but no, he'll be sent home and he'll be just fine. Mugi now the one under assault. Brew split with a little bit of time left. But Newbee are just fine. All 4 heroes very healthy.
Oh, the chase after 2. They've used the split already, and they're just going to run down VG.J.
You have Yang running low on options. He pops his stick charges, and it's a stolen split from the Rubik. Oh, that's a misplay, and now that Shadow Fiend caught by the Cyclone. It'll be the end of Freeze, and they set up a double for the Templar Assassin. Newbee lose 1, but they pick up 2 in exchange.
So game 2. You know, maybe we'll start talking about some of those other heroes, trying to work some stuff in here. But man, Newbee just so far ahead because of this Chen play by Faith. And well, as TAs love to do, right into the pit nice and early. Doesn't even have the death, so doesn't need it.
Yeah, well, it's coming out soon. Now they move right into the Roche pit, a very early Roche, but as you mentioned earlier, similar to that Ursa, this is part of the reason why you pick a TA for this Roshan control, for this kind of early momentum. Things very quickly getting out of control for VG.J Thunder. It's interesting talking about the Chen versus Bounty Hunter matchup. In some ways, Bounty Hunter can counter the Chen to leech some of that experience, put pressure on, make his jungle life more difficult. But as you mentioned, there is one thing that Bounty Hunter absolutely doesn't want to play against pre-level 6, and that is 5-man Dota.
Yeah, and Chen has changed so much too. Like Chen is just, he doesn't go to the jungle. What's a jungle? I mean, those things are worthless now anyway. I'm just going to go sit in lane. I'd rather punish my enemy carry than just try and get a little bit more gold on myself. I'll farm heroes instead of neutral creeps, and that's what Faith has done, although mostly it's towers for him.
So I want to ask you about this item build on the Rubik. Often you'll see mobility tools get prioritized, Blink Dagger, Force Staff, Glimmer Cape. Here we're going straight for the Aghanims.
Yeah, it's that idea of just like, we're so far ahead right now, and the steal on the Brewmaster is generally pretty easy. Like, are you really going to need to like blink and steal that thing anyway? He can be long range and steal things like even just like Lucent Beam or Eclipse. Requiem's a pretty classic one. Like, there's no BKBs. There's nothing that really stops him from needing some perfect timing for a steal. So he's going to be nice and tanky from all the stats from the Aghanim Scepter, and life's easy.
It is a little scary to think about an Aghanim Scepter Eclipse stolen from the Luna. Split as well, but you know, being able to cast Eclipse in somewhere on an enemy hero or in a team fight on the ground can certainly be devastating. Also worth mentioning that the Rubik Aghanims lowers the cooldown, increases the range, so it is just a great utility item on that hero, regardless of the ultimate Aghanims upgrades he's stealing. Yeah,
Rubik is often seen as a hero that, like, it doesn't matter what level you are, right? As long as you get 6, whatever your opponent has in terms of a spell, you're going to get that. But that's another great thing about the Aghanims is that no matter what level you are, it's always at 2. It's not scaled in any certain way. So 2-second cooldown across all 3 levels with the Aghanim Scepter.
Yeah, it's pretty dirty. Bottom tier 1 tower falls, and that means 1 outer tower remains for VG.J Thunder. It's going to be that bottom tier 2, and it might be the next one turned to rubble. It doesn't look like VG.J have the resources to mount a defense here, just desperately trying to use this time to farm up a little bit of core items. They've got a Drum of Endurance on the Shadow Fiend, a Mask of Madness on the Luna. Slow and steady, but Newbee are just unrelenting in their pressure, and this will be the end of that bottom tier 2 as SCCC now has the Desolator
on the just splitting TA. Already. Heading on it, everybody home. Hello. You guys feel like defending. Storm Panda right on your TP.
Not a bad way to start things off. There is still a glyph for the Dire, but there's a smoke rotation on the back line. Yang going to go in first. He does have the Brew Split, and he's going to pop it. Decent static storm from the Disruptor. Requiem of Souls comes out, but Newbee still hanging on. Looks like they'll lose KP first as the Eclipse flies. Can they turn this, or have Newbee gone in too deep? Faith will be the second to fall. It's 2-0 for VG.J. Now TA desperately trying to make it back, but she turns onto Fade, drops some damage before the Aegis gets utilized. It's 3 down. And I think they'll be able to get this TA once more. Newbee did not have any way to finish him off, or to keep him alive.
Yeah, Chen dying so fast just cost them so much. There's no send back, and now with these tracks, baby, it's Bounty Hunter. He's in the game. We've seen it before. There's a chance, yeah, maybe it's going to cost DDC in the end. This will actually still be worth it, and he does go down. So Kaka continues his reign of dominance. But so that is a huge loss of net worth. That's like 4K.
Yes, and this is, so now that Bounty Hunter's level 6, this could be the beginning of the turn for this Dire squad, and that is the trouble when you run this early momentum type draft. That lead that Newbee has right now is pretty much exclusively from tower gold. So once VG.J start to get a little more map control and knock down those towers, this game could level out surprisingly fast.
You know, when you go through that crazy circumstance of like, what needs to happen for VG.J to get back in this game here, Mr. Co-caster, sir? Yep. But that was pretty much it. They had to do some crazy smoke wraparound, and maybe just not expected from Newbee, catch the right hero, get the Chen before any of the sendbacks, get the Omni Knight the next. Like, they hit them in that perfect order of the heroes that just couldn't save the TA.
And that's absolutely key. Newbee have a lot of sustainability. Purifications, the Hand of God. Looks like Hand of God was able to be used in that fight, but the Omni Knight had the GA, didn't use it. The power of the Eclipse, baby. But all those things said, Trent, things still feel pretty okay for Newbee. Their item progression is great. They've got 2 Hood of Defiances, so still very beefy. The Aghanim Scepter for the Rubik is strikingly close. I mean, we're 16 minutes in, and he's only 1 piece away.
Yeah, now they move into like a different step of the game, though, for VG.J Thunder. This is we have pushed outside of our base. Yes, we have no towers, but if we can get some wave manipulation going, we have our little scout here in Fade. He can watch the movements of Newbee, and that might be enough for us to dance around Newbee and try and get into these BKBs for the Shadow Fiend, something that he can actually fight after this Eul's Scepter.
Yeah. So
although in a game like this, he might just need some more armor.
If VG.J Thunder are able to hold on here, Trent, who do you feel like has the mid-game advantage and then maybe more importantly the late-game advantage? I feel like Luna in that regard is kind of queen of the castle. However, her big beefy ancient stack has just been stolen by Newbee, so that will slow her down.
Oh yeah, that is pretty rough. But SCCC actually another one. But there's your little snipe there from Fade.
Very nice. That will happen, but small pick-me-up.
I favor VG.J Thunder a little bit in terms of lineups, but here we go again on the Moogie.
Initiated on, Static Storm to follow up, but this time the Omni Knight able to heal him. They use the Cyclone, and Eclipse doesn't really do a hell of a lot.
Oh, KP's.
Send back from Chen, but now KP in a lot of trouble. Repel, GA, and now the TP home, he makes it. It's tight, but he gets out. Chen, however, not going to be so lucky. And now on the other side, Newbee are the ones that have re-initiated. The Requiem comes out. Kaka and SCCC fall, but Freeze has to pay with his life. They isolate Faith, and again, it's a good fight for VG.J Thunder. The track gold adding up as they catch a glimpse onto Moogie. Oh, this Razor falls next, and it's Sylar with a double. The lead that Newbee had has since evaporated, and VG.J have leveled it out.
We were talking about VG.J Thunder. They're the ones who were supposed to make mistakes going high ground. They were the ones who were supposed to get impatient. You know, that's what we saw yesterday, but it was definitely Newbee. They threw that earlier lead, the 4K, and now a second engagement here, just well taken in this instance by VG.J Thunder. Quick initiation coming in from Yang.
Honestly, Trent, it feels like both of these fights have been on the backside of DDC. The Static Storm kinetic fields have been on point in every single fight. It's a really chaotic fight, but again, isolating that Omni Knight the way they did is part of what allowed them to do this.
Yeah, and then as well as like Faith too. Like he had like some of the sendbacks, but then they just kind of came back in, right? Like Razor returned.
Well, that's the thing. You save the Omni Knight with the sendback, but your Omni's still out of the fight. So is it really a victory?
Well, for now they'll just continue the same kind of posturing. Basically, everyone in the same spots. Yang down bottom. Fade running through the jungle to kind of give like a buffer. He's the vanguard for this Brewmaster, and Sylar's going to come down here and try and hope someone responds and get a kill, but with no one there, they just show up, and he wants the tower last hit, but Yang snags it first.
A couple of big items now have been completed for VG.J Thunder off of these successful team fights. Full Hurricane Pike done on Sylar, Blink Dagger up on Yang's Brewmaster, and also the Mechanism on Fade's Bounty Hunter. So some really key team fight items now coming out, and defending high ground maybe a little bit easier for this Dire squad, if that's even the case.
Yeah, as Newbee, of course, they are playing TA. They want Roche, so no big plans until then.
And we'll see what that timer looks like in about 40 seconds. So still some time to spare before Roshan comes back into question.
One thing their lineup is missing is that pick-off potential as well. You know, the off-lane Omni Knight, and then your position 4 is this Chen. Like, how is DDC allowed to just stand up here and farm waves? Like, he's the only person keeping that top wave out. He's just constantly there, and no one can punish him because they don't have any, like, real range of initiation.
I really think DDC is just showing us the power of the Disruptor, because you look at that net worth breakdown, he is lowest by far. Half of the net worth of the 9th farmer, which is Chen, yet still having an insane impact in these team fights.
Well, Scan catches a Bounty Hunter. They might think it's the entirety of VG.J smoke, though, and Moogie the only one who's really in a dangerous position.
Yeah, that assumption not entirely wrong. All of VG.J Thunder looking for a gank in enemy territory, but Newbee will spread out. Moogie going to head up to the top lane to join Kaka. Still potentially could get picked off here. They're going to bump into the Chen army, so maybe thinking this could be a tell as to where Newbee are lurking.
Oh, they're going to see him TPing, though.
And they've got the interrupt. There's the glimpse, the follow-up kinetic field, plenty of burst damage, and the Moogler gets finished off.
He did buy out on his BKB, so not an absolutely massive loss for him, but another great grab for VG.J Thunder. They assert more control over their own part of the map.
Trent, it's absolutely huge.
Thank you.
BKB also on the way for the TA. Still has a bit of farming to do, but always a key timing, especially against this lineup of VG.J Thunder. That Aghanim's only 100 gold away for Kaka.
Oh, Freeze has gotten to his obnoxious point, though, right? The 40 movement speed. You're trying to catch this damn Shadow Fiend, and he'll have that 10-second BKB as well, so Rubik going to feel relatively useless up against him.
Yeah, anybody who's played a pub in the last couple months knows what this feels like.
Every pub.
The haste rune Shadow Fiend. I mean, people are doing it for good reason. It's very, very strong. It makes him hard to deal with, especially with that lack of catch, kind of like you were talking about. Pretty much unless Rubik is able to initiate with a telekinesis, and given that he doesn't even have a blink dagger, that's a tall order. Yeah, he does have an Aghanims, though. Fully completed here, so kind of like another round of a advantage, I would say, for a Newbee. Not quite the one they had before, but this makes a pretty big difference, obviously, if you can make those plays as Kaka. Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on Sylar to make sure he uses Lucent Beam immediately after Eclipse. I think that is the big steal that could just decimate a team fight if Rubik uses it properly. Yeah, Static Storm and Split I think would be two of the huge ones too, right? Because if he steals Static Storm and gets that on top of the Shadow Fiend and he can't BKB or Yules, that fight's over. Doesn't matter what his net worth is. That's absolutely true. I guess I'm thinking it's a little bit easier for Disruptor to cover his bases after the Static Storm maybe than Luna, who's needs a target. But we'll see. I digress here as a smoke comes from Newbee. 3 of them in their own jungle looking for a gank onto Freeze. He'll TP home. He's going to get him. It'll be close, but there is a BKB and a Yule Scepter. Freeze will use the magic immunity. He's going to try to turn this. Gets off the Requiem. The all heal does top them off as the Death Requiem only tickles. Nice rotation from Newbee on that high prize target. Well, Fade is hoping that they spend their gold on something too, because he's trying to mirror their movements between the base and them, snipe that courier, but he won't be as lucky as usual. Once again, catching their movements though, so they're going to use that pressure in the bottom lane to force top. And Yang with the split. Don't really want to contest this unless you're at full capacity here as Newbee. I like this build coming out from Yang. Really nothing too surprising. Blink Dagger and then into the Aura-based Brewmaster. Vladimir's offering and Assault Kuros going to be up after that. Roshan has respawned, by the way. Newbee with the trap in the pit. They see it straight away. They go in. Yeah. Oh, there's that courier. But VG.J Thunder are right there. Oh, that's huge. And the BKB pieces. Oh, you can't do that. You can't ferry a gem versus a bounty. Oh, he's going to have those wards. And now VG.J Thunder, they are outside of the pit. They know exactly what's going on here, and they are ready to contest. Newbee could be in some trouble as Sylar pops the ultimate. DDC gets destroyed the other way, though. Oh, but you can see the power of these BKBs is not really there in this game, right? Like, this is why you need a Vlad's and an AC. It's so much physical damage from the side of Newbee. Sylar just has to run. Yeah, that was the stolen Eclipse from the Rubik, and now this Brewmaster going to be the one that gets left behind as his Earth Panda turns into a real panda. With the Aghanims. This is incredible for Kaka. You can't fight this. I mean, this is the thing that could send them high ground again. Absolutely. This is not only Aegis, but remember, it's cheese to boot. So who's going to grab what? Aegis goes to the TA, and it'll be Mugi on the Razor that'll grab that yummy cheese. Okay. Very difficult to see the graphics on that Lucent Beam as well. When both of them are flying, it's just a flurry of golden beams all over the screen. But well played by Kaka there to isolate the Disruptor before he could get off the Static Storm. And Kaka, well, he's just walking in. Not going to split quite as early this time. He's not losing it like he was the previous time. Yep, there's the Dire Glyph. They do have a buyback on the Brew, but of course no split, does not want to use it. Kaka in a very aggressive position. They just blink right in on the DDC. He's got the Ghost Scepter, and that buys him some time against the TA, but now the push will commence. Tier 3 tower down bottom, gets finished off, glimpse back onto KP, Static Storm, Kinetic Field, but he will survive through it. The stolen Brew split from Rubik also helping things out as VG.J Thunder desperately trying to hang on. Exposed Barracks starting to take some damage. Requiem comes with the BKB, but Freeze, he's getting low and he's relegated back to the well. Now Sylar BKB on, tries to bring down Kaka, but a GA at the last second. They send back Kaka. He stays alive, and now Newbee need to make the retreat. An incredible play from the Omni Knight, but another glimpse will pull back Faith and secure a kill for VG.J Thunder. Oh, they're all tracked up here. The BKB from Mugi, the cheese, but also the Guardian Greaves from VG.J. They will finish off Razor, secure the high ground defense, and now they want more. SCCC able to blink home. Yeah, they're trying to save him. Left behind. Oh, just lurking nearby. But remember, where's that gem? I guess they lost it. Whew, close one. Where is it right now? Actually, not in anyone's inventory. Oh, it's just in the base. Whoops. Okay. That will save SCCC. So, I think we call that a big win for VG.J. No buybacks used, and we do have a replay here to take a look at. Very chaotic fight, but Kaka... He was so close to getting this off again here. Yep, helped get us to the point Beautiful GA, just a sliver of health stopping those the glaives from Sylar.
Yeah, but then at this point, it's just like the full pullback, right? Like the rest of VG.J Thunder, they just ran them down. They did get the tier 3, so that is pretty huge for them because, again, they're trying to get like this forward momentum. They want to take down that shrine up top, so DDC won't be safe doing that constant pushing out of the top lane. Doesn't have any sort of shrine backup going on, but in the end, you're still giving away way too much going high ground. It's the exact same situation.
Oh, Fade, this courier's just respawned. He's going to get it again! Oh my gosh, this TA will never have a BKB at this rate. The Mithril Hammer and Ogre Axe again shut down, and also Kaka's Ghost Scepter.
You can't do that. I don't know how many bounty games are we going to need, you know? A lot of teams, they've quit. They just walk up to the base every time.
Yeah.
Because it just gets ridiculous.
I mean, it does feel a little predictable at this point, but you know, maybe I was a little worried in the early game. What kind of an impact would Fade be able to have on the Bounty Hunter? It's been huge.
Yeah. Absolutely massive.
Absolutely massive, my friend. Well said. Butterfly on the way for Sylar's Luna, now the #1 net worth farmer by a decent margin. Shadow Fiend #2 as TA has been knocked down a couple of pegs. That lack of TA has held SCCC into this defensive posture for far too long, and now it's a nullifier.
They just smoked on a TA trap. SCCC looking to just pop it here. Nicely done.
Yep, good high ground positioning, but his teammate's still going to get caught out. Chen in the Cyclone, the follow-up Static Storm, Kinetic Field, Requiem, Fate
The Ghost Scepter from DDC.
Kaka able to turn the other way. The Lucent Beams are flying all over, and it looks like Rubik's is doing some decent return damage, but they'll still lose the TA Aegis, and now Mugi, BKB expires, he falls, Kaka to boot. It's VG.J Thunder all day, going 1 for 3 plus the Aegis. They've got to be happy with that.
KP, you can't get caught here. He just was stuck in the trees, waiting to help his team. He had the pipe ready, he had the repel, but he didn't have GA, couldn't feel like he could jump it, and now he ends up getting caught by the Storm Panda on the way out, tracked down and dead. Triple kill for Sylar, who is godlike at this point.
Trent, the turn is real. This Luna 9-1-8 out of control. It's starting to feel like they don't have the tools to deal with this hero, especially now that the Butterfly's on the horizon. The Stolen Eclipse didn't really do much.
Unbelievable. I mean, you're wondering, like, when are they actually going to start pressing forward, though? They've wiped them a couple times when it's Newbee getting aggressive, but now VG.J Thunder, they have fully come back. They obliterate this tower, and the racks are soon to follow here. Is SCCC, oh, where's your BKB at? Way to go.
Gonna have to wait another 50 seconds for that one to come back. Mid lane barracks fall. There are tier 2s in top and bottom, so Newbee will be safe in that regard. VG.J won't be able to get much more, but at 28 minutes, got to be happy with a lane of barracks, and also this opens up that shrine goal.
Well, back we go to the old Roche game then. Unlikely we'll get much more push. We could see VG.J Thunder kind of close out that shrine inside the Radiant bottom jungle and then push in through that tier 2, try and open up the map just a little bit more for themselves, but they are certainly feeling quite good about this game as the Butterfly now comes out here, and that is going to change up the build here for SCCC, no longer eyeing up the Nullifier.
And it's absolutely the right call. The Nullifier would be nice. It's absolutely a fabulous item, but the MKB just seems required, or else this Luna will be unkillable.
Yeah, and Freeze, we talked about all the physical damage and needing a little bit more armor. He can't get all of that just from his little buddy Yang, who will have the AC now too, but picking up the Shiva's Guard as well. Just the whole team now benefiting so much from these auras.
So look at this. In the base, SCCC says, Courier, just give me my damn BKB before you die again. He will finally have it and also grab that first Javelin. So a small pick-me-up for Newbee in the face of a massive gold deficit right now. VG.J headed up this mid lane, showing off this Butterfly of Sylar. They still need to take out these tier 2 towers, but they are hungry for a fight if they can find it.
You can't understate this BKB, though. 10 seconds is very scary, I still think, for VG.J Thunder, honestly. Shiva puts a lot of damage at the moment, but the Shiva's Guard might be enough just to quell that here.
It's kind of an interesting play from Newbee. They, at fear of getting initiated on, smoke up behind the Razor, but then choose not to initiate as VG.J head for the Shrine. And I think they'll just rotate into this tier 2 down bottom.
Unbelievable game. Can't believe they've come back after all that pressure early on from the Chen. But I guess that is the risk that we run these days in terms of comeback possibilities with the gold and everything. If you do make those mistakes, even when you have such a huge advantage, you know, maybe you deserve to be punished a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we come back to a lot. Knocking down the outer towers, a relatively easy endeavor, but breaking high ground is something different completely. And we saw in this game how difficult it can be, even when you have a big lead, when you've itemized appropriately for it.
Look at that GPM differential, too. 698 at this point for Sylar.
Woo! He's on fire, Trent.
Yeah, Moogie's having a real rough go on the Razor here.
Bottom lane, Shiva's guard is up on the Shadow Fiend, so Freeze, very tanky, doing a lot of damage, and they're just going to head right up to this tier 3. There is no glyph available for Newbee. They do have a couple of buybacks. They're just going to try and split a bit here with that Triple C. Razor and TA, the only two with buyback right now. Tier 3 falls. The push comes so fast from VG.J Thunder. Top lane, S-Triple-C just tickling that tower. The glyph comes out.
Yeah, they're not going to get anyone for it either.
Yeah, just going to leave that Storm Panda behind. No big deal. And now the TP's home. TA is going to be able to TP out.
Oh, very clean here this time from VG.J Thunder. The teams have switched. What happened? This is the exact opposite of what we were expecting in this one. 21,000 gold lead with 21 kills. That's a nice ratio.
Yes, most definitely, my friend. But another big item, TA still with that 10-second BKB, now has the Monkey King bar, and once again, queues up that nullifier for the next big item. There is a possibility, just as Newbee made that misstep going high ground, VG.J Thunder could get hyper-aggressive in this next push. They could maybe dive past the tier 4s. A wise man once said, it's one thing to wipe a team the first time, it's something entirely different to wipe them again after buyback. So that's always something you had to keep on the back burner. But Newbee certainly have their backs up against the wall. Roshan coming up in 30 seconds. This will be Roche 3 with the Refresher Shard, and certainly will become the objective both teams have their eyes on.
Yeah, one reason that it's still going to be so much harder for Newbee, though, in that situation, not only because the lead is obviously much more massive at this point, but so many of these heroes are self-reliant on VG.J Thunder's side, whereas they were being saved constantly by the Chen and the Omni Knight. They're being backed up in that. You know, you can pick off some of these supports, and VG.J Thunder are still terrifying.
That's very true. Or Dust used by Kaka, hoping to catch somebody, but will not be there. Also, Bounty Hunter with a gem in tow. Glimpse onto Kaka, kinetic field to follow up. But right now, VG.J Thunder a little hesitant to initiate. No, they jump in. Repel comes, but it's not enough. Moogie with the BKB on. He's just getting clicked down. GA will keep him alive, but the cavalry is here. The Omni Knight gets isolated. Moogie gets trapped up. The Requiem flies. KP will be the next to fall. S-Triple-C doing what damage he can with that BKB, but his teammates are getting obliterated, and that's it. Good game gets called. VG.J Thunder absolutely destroy game number 1 against Newbee with an impeccable high ground defense and then unrelenting pressure of their own.
That wraparound, man. There were so few options that was going to stop that push in that bottom lane.
Incredible.
I mean, you could say maybe Newbee went a bit too deep. You know, they got the tier 2, they got another tier 2, a couple tier 1s down the other lanes, another tier 2, and they said, oh, why don't we try a tier 3? Let's see what happens. Well, that's what happened. You got wrapped on. Well predicted from VG.J Thunder, and they were rewarded for it.
Now, I have to say, VG.J Thunder, it felt like they had the perfect draft to make a play like that. You've got Bounty Hunter who can pick off couriers, get you that track hold to power farm your team back into the game despite that deficit, and then DDC's Disruptor. Maybe I've talked about him too much, but he had an incredible performance. He was bottom of the net worth the entire game and still had a great show.
Now, with so much of that net worth lead, a lot of it was on the courier. So that doesn't help you very much if you're trying to keep up some of that momentum going. So.
Good point, my friend. So with that said, we're going to hand it back over to the analyst panel to see what they think about game number 1.
Thanks very much. Yes, I think Zyori might just be the president of the DDC fan club after that one. And not surprisingly, he had a great game as well, as did a number of his teammates. VG.J Thunder, what do you know? Make a great defense and then a great victory in game number 1. Let's get the thoughts of both Jack and Cap at the panel. Impressed?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of good things to say about VG.J and some negative things to say about Newbee. VG.J definitely did a great job. I think the wraparound was probably one of their better moves there. The Bounty Hunter had an absolute great time in that game, picking off so many of the couriers. But I think that Newbee's lineup inherently had to stay ahead, and they made a number of very critical mistakes. 2 different back-to-back team fights where they fed away probably 4,000 gold each because they're facing up against a Bounty Hunter. You cannot afford those kind of mistakes. That combination just proves to be too deadly and too fine a line, apparently, for Newbee to be able to walk.
Yeah, and speaking of DDC, again, they call the guy tickets for a reason. This was, of course, the big change they made the past month. Just stabilizing the 5 position was a much more seasoned veteran player, the only Asian player to be at every TI. And to just tell you how much of a razor's edge this was, and that turnaround fight cap that you're talking about bottom, when Kaka had stolen Bruce Split and pushed, that needed to be the perfect ult right there for them to have a chance in this game. If you're Disruptor, given how quickly Newbee is playing this game, you miss one ult and the game is pretty much over. Instead, they wrap around, they get the perfect ult that separates the team and stops the save spells from being cast, that allows VG.J to win that fight, hold the base, and then later on within the base, he needed to perform well once again. His itemization, again, was great. Instead of going for something like a Force Staff or Glimmer Cape, he gets the Ghost Scepter, which prevents him from being bursted down or killed by Newbee in these fights. These big ults just, like a hero that's on the 5 position, by far the lowest net worth, having that much impact. There's so many good things that happened from VG.J this game, whether it was a bounty hunter killing couriers nonstop, providing vision. But DDC, given the position that he was in, he kept them in this game, gave them a chance to turn things around.
Here we are at 15 minutes into the game at this point.
Yeah, this is that first wrap round,
I was going to say that this is where they had the advantage at this point, but it got away from them.
Yeah, it certainly did. I think there's the fact they've got Bounty Hunter and Disruptor. Once you've lost the initial part of a team fight, you're just going to collect kill after kill, and you're going to be able to rack in so much. And this is the secondary fight where they actually, I think, kind of get baited in by the fact that Kaka had a great clip steal in that one. They ended up coming back after they got a successful Chen send back, I think, on the Razor, and then I think he TP'd back in. In the end, they end up losing 4-1 in this team fight. You have 2 of those team fights, again, back-to-back against a Bounty Hunter where you already have the lead. It is just a huge windfall for VG.J Thunder, and after that second fight, I actually thought the game was already over. I thought there was very little chance for Newbee to be able to overcome that because the timing window was just too small. You had your BKBs coming online for VG.J. Yeah, they picked up a gem off of a courier snipe as well. That was also a big play. There were,
oh, look, there's a gem. Where did that come from?
We said that Kaka was the engine of this team, so important, and he lived up to it this game. He played very well in this Rubik, kept stealing key spells. A few times it almost felt like he played too well. It's like he stole a great spell and then almost baited them into going back into the engagement. You saw the fight before with the Eclipse that he stole. Like, guys, let's go back in. The team is unable to stand their ground. And then he stole the Bruce Split, which led to the first high ground push and a couple of re-engages. But Kaka had a good performance on Rubik. Certainly cannot, as the Chinese would say, put the pot on his back this game as far as playing goes. But yeah, I think, again, you go back to the draft a little bit. The Disruptor, we talked about being one of the key for both of these teams. Again, like a great Team 5 hero. And then we talked about limiting Kaka's hero pool, and they did that through the early part of the draft. He still got a comfortable hero. They pulled out the kind of surprise with Faith being able to play this Chen. Again, he hadn't played it in a very long time, and they didn't intend to really take this game long or have to scale it that much. They were just rolling early on, but again, VG.J were able to get the holds that they needed to.
No one else is playing Luna except for the Chinese teams right now, and these guys have now played 3 games in a row with it.
I do want to give a special shout out to Siler because while it's kind of an underrated skill, but his farming mechanism, I went back and watched his laning phase, and he made the adjustments as soon as his lane actually went very well for the first 3 minutes, but eventually it was going to get difficult against an Omni with a Chen rotating in and a Rubik also having a presence in there. So he rotates out pretty early. He tries to go down to that bottom lane. The SF also did something similar where he has a tough matchup against the TA. He's also susceptible to those rotations. He starts playing jungle pretty early there, and I think that those 2 carries really understood in that game that they did not need to put themselves out there too often. They did not need to take too many risks. They need to sit back and more often not just focus on not dying and continue to get that neutral farm and let Newbee be the ones to try and push into them, and they ended up capitalizing on a couple of mistakes.
25-16, the score on the scoreboard, as you can see on your screen. Freeze 11, 5, and 10. Siler 10, 1, and 11, and Fade in on 22 of the 25 kills.
I really like that point, Cap. You're talking about like keeping themselves alive. You look at the itemizations in those 2 cores as well. It's not the same like let's get that rapier out, let's keep us alive. And then these are things that less experienced cores or maybe less seasoned cores may really struggle with when your lane gets run over. How do you secure farm? How do you avoid feeding on this very squishy hero and still be able to have that impact and pick your spots appropriately in the fights? And you could see like Siler performed so well in this hero as the Chinese play classes in session again from Siler. Just a masterclass in how to stay in the game when you're behind early and find your opportunity to come back in.
Even Yang did something similar where he gets the both of Vlad's and then the AC for his team. Common items for Brewmaster, but I still think it helped out the survivability of the team. And it's also helpful in both of these heroes, in the SF and Luna. They're relatively early BKB buyers, but they're actually faced up against 2 physical damage dealing cores. So they could actually be afforded slightly later BKBs. They got the full Hurricane Pike as well as the Mask of Madness out on the Luna before he felt like he needed to go that BKB. So the BKB timing for me, when they picked it up, it said kind of the game was over. I thought they were just going to take control, but it wasn't because the BKB was like super effective or anything against those heroes. It was more the fact that it was just, we finally reached a timing on the Luna where she's come online, so is the SF, and the Templar Assassin and Razor, when they're not ahead, they're not going to look good.
Indeed, and they didn't look good in this game. MVP, it would be easy, I guess, to give this to the thing that basically clicks value, money, the bounty, but instead we're going to give it to DDC, just to please Zyori.
I'm down with it. Jack, you got a meme for it? Is there the MVP?
Tickets.
Is that a common, like?
Isn't his nickname Tickets in China?
Yeah, they don't usually. I don't think they usually give MVPs out. Excuse me, on the Chinese broadcast. They might, but it's probably not as heralded as here. But yeah, this guy's nickname is Tickets. I mean, he's punched his way to every single major tournament basically since he started playing a long time ago.
So what is the Chinese reaction to the ESL ones, where we have MVPs sometimes in some of these tournaments, and it's more of like we just throw it up there as sort of a talk about in the panel, but ESL one actually had it as a part of their tournament format where it, all of a sudden you get an extra card. Hey, like what was their reaction to that?
The one I saw was just heart goes out to Lil or feels bad for Lil. And then, VP, obviously the VP salary cups that they called ESL because they seem to do all
so
it's
also
a
bonus.
They get the cards out of that as well. So
the VP salary cups, I love it. Thank you very much, gents. We're going to take a break right now, but of course we still have potentially 2 more games, depending on whether VG.J decide to be nice and let Newbee back into this series, or whether Newbee can step up in game number 2. Either way, it's an enthralling tie between 2 Chinese giants, and it carries on after the break.